I'm going to tell you about the time I drove to Cancun. Now, I do not recommend this. Like, just personally, it was the greatest adventure ever. I'm so glad we did it, and I can say, please, 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 if you're going to Cancun, fly in a plane. But this was part of a 3-week road trip that we took a couple of years back, me and some of my roommates. And the trip actually entailed driving from Utah all the way to the east coast of the United States, down to Louisiana, Texas, through Mexico to Cancun. So there's a lot of stories from this trip, but I just want to tell you about driving through Mexico specifically, which was, again, so amazing. Now there's a road, I can't remember the name of it, maybe I'll put it up in the thing. There's a lot of really official, well-maintained roads that go through Mexico, and then a lot of maybe not as safe ones if you're an American traveler. And these roads have tolls. And the thing is, we never knew when those tolls would be, because like we never knew when they would be, and we never knew how much they would be. They could be anything from 40 cents to $40. And so again, it probably just would have been cheaper with the car rental and the gas and everything to just fly. But anyway, we drove our car all around the United States. We parked it across the border and then rented a car in Mexico because we figured that'd be safer. We're driving hours and hours and hours through the desert. Some of the most beautiful stuff I've ever seen. You know, Mexico was a place I had always wanted to visit. I had been to Mexico when I was about 7 years old, just barely on a cruise with my family. All I remember is I bought a Pikachu toy, and it was all of my money that I had that it cost. Probably because my parents weren't with me, and that's what the person told me it cost. But anyway, we drove through Mexico. We would just switch off so that we never would stop anywhere to sleep because it took hours and hours and hours. So one person would just sleep in the back of the car and the other one would drive, which is something I've done on several trips. Anyway, we drove all the way through Mexico. And we drove all the way out to the Yucatan Peninsula. There's this beautiful road that goes across the Yucatan. The Yucatan I've been to several times, different parts of it. I'll get to that in my Guatemala episode, my Tikal episode, my Belize episode. Driving across the Yucatan was such an interesting experience. I will do more videos on Mayan mythology. I love the idea of the Yucatan just being this like unforested metropolitan, you know, array of kingdoms. There was never an empire. There was never a Mayan empire. They're kind of just different kingdoms that fought with each other at different times until the Aztecs came in and started kind of messing with them. But yeah, anyway, one of the things they think is that one of the reasons why the Mayans struggled was because of deforestation, which now if you go to the Yucatan, it's just so full of jungle. And so full of animal life and everything, the variety of that and feeling the heat, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. All of the archaeological sites were closed, right? So like we had gone out, we saw Cancun, we drove to the beaches in Cancun, we dug up a sea turtle skeleton that was like falling out of the cliff. It was just this beautiful little tiny beach north of Cancun that we just found because we could drive there, like outside of all the resorts. We had just had all these little adventures, but we're like, okay, on the way back, we need to see Chichen Itza. And we like talked to the local people and they're like, oh, Chichen Itza's closed. You can't get in right now. And we're like, well, we really want to support this archaeological site. I don't support trespassing in any way that it becomes unethical. I know that was a weird way to say that. And anyway, we were totally ready to pay and get into the site, but we're like, we're in the Yucatan. We want to at least see it so that we can just like honor these people. And then maybe when we get back home, we'll just like donate the money of the tickets or something so that we can support the archaeological work that's going on there. We decided one way or another we were going to sneak in. So we're being sneaky. We park on the side of the road, cover the car. We're like, all right, it's about 100 meters through the jungle to get to the first cenote. The cenote are these sinkholes. And we're like, and then after that, it's a short walk to see the El Castillo, the biggest famous pyramid that people see at Chichen Itza. We're going to sneak through the jungle. So we like waited to see the cars and we're like, go! And we run through and we run into the jungle and there's this fence. And I'm like, okay, we got to get through this fence. It's barbed wire. I hear Mark, one of the 3 people that were there, me and my 2 roommates, Cole and Mark, he just screams like he is being murdered, eviscerated. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. What's going on? And then as soon as I hear the scream, I feel searing pain, searing pain, searing pain, searing pain. And I go, did we walk into some sort of bush? Is this some sort of poisonous jungle plant? And then as soon as I turn around, I see hornets all over this guy. And I look down, I see them all over me. Jungle hornets. Not just like hornets, jungle hornets. I'm not going to tell you how big they were because I'll exaggerate, but they were humongous. And so I'm just feeling sting, 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 sting. Mark is screaming like his skin is getting peeled off. And all I remember doing is I just wiped all the hornets off of him. I pushed him and I said, run. And we run out of the jungle back to the car. And we're like finding hornets in our clothes and everything. What happened was Cole got stung by 3. Mark got stung by between 12 and 17. I got stung 23 times by these hornets. 23 times in my clothes. So anyway, that was probably the Mayan gods telling us like, hey, don't sneak into here or something. I don't know. We decided maybe it was Kukulkan. We don't know. We're just open to it. It was a good little chapter on the adventure, and there were some other mishaps as we drove up, and I have some videos that I can include and show you guys. On the way back, you know, we got back. We saw some other archaeological sites and everything. I did get stung by hornets again in a different jungle when we were sneaking into a different site, but there's nothing I could do about it because I couldn't run away. But that was only like 3 stings. Anyway, we got to our car. We drove through the desert. We got back to the United States. We got in our car. Our car overheated in New Mexico. Made it to my family's farm in Colorado after we had been stranded in the desert for hours, which that's a funny story. The police officer that found us when we were stranded, we were so tired. It was so hot in the desert. We're half naked, just sitting in the car sleeping, and he thought we were dead. He legitimately was driving by, and he's like, oh, he did this. The cop, he was just like, oh, I thought you guys were dead. I just saw you. And so we weren't dead. We were just very, very hot and starting to maybe hallucinate. This video will give you a pretty good idea. Whippy Boy was a character I created at the time because that's where my mental state was at. Whippy Boy! Made it to Colorado where we could try to fix the car. We switched out with a different car at my family farm and then barely made it to Utah. It was one of the greatest adventures I've ever had. Maybe I'll make more videos where I tell more stories about the United States portion of that, where we went to Ohio and Serpent Mound for the solstice, and we went to Nashville and met Brenda Lee and just some other things that I might talk about. But it was a good adventure. And again, like, I'm telling you these stories because I have had these adventures. I've learned from them. I'm a very different kind of adventurer now than I used to be, and I think that growth is an important part of the sort of the risks that I took and the calculated risks that I took. I feel like danger isn't a bad thing. I feel like stupidly hurling yourself into danger that you're unprepared for can be a bad thing, but also it's something that really shaped my worldview and how I love the world. So you might agree with some of the things that I've done and disagree with some others. I disagree with some of the stuff that I've done traveling, but I want to share the stories with you now because I think it's important to just live an adventurous life and a life where you are discovering things and doing good as well. That's that story. I hope you like it. I don't know if you will, but that's driving across Mexico, and I'm Levi, and this is Outlandish.